Hi everyone, this session is Business Agility, how to address the 21st century leadership challenge and supercharge your SAFe implementation. My name's Matt Kearney and I'm the Vice President for Strategy at NTT Data UK and also one of our practicing SAFe program consultants. I'll be covering three key areas with you for this presentation. Firstly, why is it that business agility is so critical? Secondly, I want to help demystify what business agility is, both for you and for your business leaders. And lastly, discuss how you can use business agility to supercharge any SAFe implementation. So, why is it that business agility is so critical? There's been a revolution over the last couple of decades, and our lives have changed pretty significantly due to the development of technology and the interconnectedness it's created. This is at its most obvious when you think about the massive computing power we all carry around in our pockets, but still rather quaintly referred to as mobile phones. And because of these and the underlying capabilities created over this period, we've witnessed and will continue to witness a massive increase in the digitization of our physical environment as well. That's why, since the late 90s, we've seen an increasing variety of new offerings and indeed whole new categories created by startups, many of whom are now household names. And they've done this by completely changing our expectations as consumers with regards to convenience, personalization, and the levels of transparency and control we've come to expect. However, to do this, they had to do things a bit differently because they were dealing with a moving feast of complex technological advances and consumers who were understandably a bit unclear on their own needs as it was all rather new. And that meant needing to make decisions much faster, which meant working in small cross-functional teams, able to take those decisions, and also being able to test things really frequently and at pace. It's what we would all now recognise as being agile. Since this new startup era, a number of other organisations have been able to learn from them and adopted agile practices and derived a range of clear benefits as a result. With employee motivation going up as time to market and costly defects have gone down, meaning much higher productivity overall. However, the challenge is that for every one of these new era startups, there are many other organisations who've been in existence for longer than that, and many of these could perhaps best be described as end-up organisations. These are organisations that have been successful and in fact may still be relatively successful right now. However, over time, they've ended up with an operating model, systems and a decision-making process that are at best suboptimal in this day and age, no matter the past glories or what the slick advertising might suggest. And when this balance tips too far, your circumstances can deteriorate to terminal at a frightening rate. This is one of the reasons why Agile and Scale Agile in particular have become so popular. Organisations do not want to be caught out. But as SAFe practitioners, we know that even when organisations state a desire to embark on this journey, there are generally going to be three big challenges in terms of implementation. The first relates to a limited recognition of the level and types of changes required. Organisations want to deliver great products and services, but to do that, everything across the organisation needs to be in sync, and many struggle to properly understand the implications of that upfront. Secondly, everyone will initially tell you they want to be agile, but when challenged to actually be that, you'll often find there's a significant cohort, usually including senior leaders, who believe it's other people or other teams who need to change and not them. And lastly, even as you get your agile release trains up and running, the challenge of getting consensus and what's most important can prove a really thorny issue, even with strong stakeholder engagement, because this is an issue that relates to everybody being in agreement about what it is the organisation is actually trying to achieve. All these challenges track back to organisations having an insufficient ability to embrace change whilst executing with purpose, and that is business agility. As Agilists, we get it, but our entry point into the conversation is generally from the perspective of software development, and we can often find ourselves in the position of understanding the origin of the challenges, but without the remit or the broader buy-in required to do something about them. And being the tail that's attempting to wag the dog is some pretty heavy lifting. So we recommend it's time to do something about that situation. I'd like to start by helping to demystify business agility for you and your business leaders. Whilst I'm guessing all of the people watching this presentation have got a pretty good understanding of Lean Agile and could happily wax lyrical on the topic to each other, the C-suite, for the most part, simply don't speak that language, and certainly not together as a group. Therefore, it's vital we accurately translate these ideas into a language that's understandable and compelling. Otherwise, we risk creating the kind of confusion and misinterpretation that's sadly only too common in this area. Now, retraining the decision-making instincts of leaders who've operated very successfully for anywhere up to 30 years plus is no simple task. And that's why we find reframing the context of what we're trying to achieve to be the most productive approach. We found that there are 6 things that organisations that not only want to survive but actually thrive in our ever-changing world need to do well to navigate it successfully. Escaping inertia, usually caused by an overly internal focus and concern over impacting existing activities, which creates a huge jag on achieving change. Achieving orchestration, which is the challenge of getting the organisation to think and act as one in service of new goals. Harnessing motivation, overcoming an inability to properly harness the driving force of any organisation. It's people. Minimising resistance. It's about avoiding prolonged resistance to change through the bargaining and depression stages in the 5 phases of emotional change, which can kill initiatives in their tracks. Creating new approaches, which reflects the tendency to try and use unsuitable BAU processes to drive different ideas and outcomes. And lastly, championing a new mindset, because many organisations get stuck due to the level of fixed mindsets amongst employees in terms of being able to do anything new, full stop. The good news is, based on our work with clients and research we've conducted, we've been able to codify all of the different elements of business agility into 6 easily understandable dimensions that relate directly to the 6 challenges, can be broken down in detail with business leaders and across the organisation as a whole, both in terms of diagnosis, but most importantly in terms of identifying solutions. Now I'd like to take you through some examples to bring this to life. When Costa Coffee sensed and recognised the demand for self-service high-quality coffee in alternative locations, they brought together a specialist team of partners. No traditional RFP, no fixed specifications. The team operated with decision-making autonomy directly to the board, the result being they were able to develop a whole new product 5 times faster than normal, creating Costa Express and effectively doubling the size of their business. Zara's vision is to give customers what they want and to get it to them faster than anyone else. As a result, they trade off some cost saving to make this happen and focus their entire business model in service of it. This means things like rotating inventory once every 5 weeks, which drive customers to store and online because it sells out quickly. It also means they keep spare production capacity available to act quickly. They also test and learn to understand exactly what customers like in store and online, doubling down rather than trying to predict customer behaviour in advance. All contributing to their founder now being the 6th richest person in the world. In 2004, Lego was on the brink of bankruptcy and a new CEO was appointed. Within 4 years, the business had gone from a £217 million loss to a £163 million profit. As you would expect, streamlining operations and controlling costs was central, but the critical foundation was employees' sense of belonging. The new CEO leveraged this by providing strategic intent whilst giving creative control to the employees. These actions boosted motivation to the point where employees claim they simply wouldn't work anywhere else, and helping Lego to become the world's largest toy manufacturer by 2017. Netflix already had a thriving business with its postal DVD rental service, but recognising the opportunity in streaming services, it set up a parallel operation internally to effectively compete with itself as well as others. Using insights gained from their DVD business about how consumers tended to binge watch episodes, they pioneered the full season release model with House of Cards in 2013. Interestingly, they still have 2 million profitable DVD subscribers in the US, but they also have 182 million streaming customers worldwide. When Walt Disney made Snow White in 1936, it required 250,000 individual drawings. To ensure that he made the classic film we now all know and love, he had to invent storyboarding, or epics as we would call them today, as well as effectively creating the Scrum team and also release trains, all 50 years early. And to this day, Disney's culture is no idea is too small, and everyone is entitled to generate and to share ideas. And the company rewards them for this, as well as developing virtual tools and physical spaces to foster innovation company-wide. This approach has seen them successfully create a wide range of business models, including most recently Disney Plus, which hit 10 million subscribers on day one, and that was pre-pandemic. Probably the least known of our group are Turkcell. They are the largest telecom provider in Turkey, and they changed their vision from network provider to experience provider through digital services. Realizing that telecom skills were only going to be a small part of what they needed, they adopted a continuous learning mantra, inspiring and developing T-shaped resources within the organization to generate and develop new opportunities outside of their core business. Over the last 3 years, they've increased their revenue by 43% at a time when global markets in telecoms have proven to be broadly flat. They've done this by launching new digital services, including their music streaming app, which is 3 times as popular as Spotify in Turkey. So, how do you go about using business agility to supercharge your future safe implementation? The short answer is you need to supercharge your leaders, because your ability to be successful is almost completely correlated with your ability to take your leaders on the journey. Otherwise, you'll find, as many other organizations have found, that whilst you can build agility at ground level, once you attempt to scale, that simply isn't enough. The drag that you'll face in terms of existing ways of working, processes, and mindsets requires a pincer movement to drive change from the top down, positioned in their language, as well as developing the capability and buy-in from a software development perspective as well. So, how do you do this? You need to use the 6 dimensions laid out in this framework in one-to-one assessments with your leadership team. We also have a white paper we can provide to you if you'd like to get in touch. And from there, it's possible to develop your own assessment or indeed work with someone like ourselves. The key challenge here is to get your leadership on the same page, using the same language about what the current situation is and what the blockers are to their ambitions in terms of strategic goals, all framed in a way that they can understand. Hence, we find that a traffic light system is the right level to pitch things at initially. Finally, you're going to need a playback and alignment session to agree where to concentrate and what the initial thoughts are about potential solutions. This process works and can get your leadership extremely well aligned in a matter of weeks, although implementing the necessary changes will obviously take longer. The important point is to get leaders aligned around the intent. As an SPC, I can tell you nothing is more valuable. There are 5 key lessons we have learned from helping organizations implement business agility strategically that I'd like to share with you. Firstly, there's the tendency to confuse Agile with business agility, and although they're closely related, they're not the same thing. So you'll need to educate colleagues on the differences or risk falling victim to what they already think they know rather than the truth. Next, it's only once you've added your own specific organizational goals and situation into the context of the framework that you can identify the correct recipe for you. So try and avoid prejudging the solution up front. Third, it isn't an exercise to delegate. It must be the leaders of your business or function going through this process initially. However, once they've aligned, it's now the turn of the next level down. So engage them in the discussion. Don't attempt to dictate to them. And finally, if you want everyone else to walk the walk, you have to as well. So remember, to respect, collaborate, learn and improve in how you conduct this exercise and yourselves through that process. To reflect on the words of the late great Alvin Toffler from 50 years ago now, I hope that this presentation will contribute to you and your organisation's ability to relearn. Thanks very much for listening.